Online media requires a different type of editor, one attuned to interactivity with the audience and flexibility rather than one rooted in the traditions and one-way communication of newspapers, magazines, and broadcast stations. For the foreseeable future, both types of editors will be needed. The first part is about layers and links. Online editors typically work with storyboards, computerized blueprints that tell them whether the information they are compiling will fit in the prescribed space. Often the screenful of information from their stories are layered, usually with these parts: the headline or title, the lead or a one-sentence tease, the first page or of a quick summary of what happened, and accompanying visual, usually photos or graphics, accompanying audio and video, and the in-depth report, often broken with subheads. The last one is links to related material. It is layering and links that make editing for the online media different. Layering makes it simple for readers to consume as little or as much as they want. Links provide access to incredible depth that far exceeds what newspapers or magazines can offer. Online journalism is multimedia journalism. Thus, the journalist is required to select the best medium, text, graphics, photos, or video, in which the story should be told. Almost without exception, the best way to tell any story is with a combination of these. And the second part is about online journalism and credibility. Online editors must be careful to use information only from reliable sources. Stan Cattrall, a journalist and journalism educator, suggests that editors evaluate information on the internet by following the same journalistic practices they use for assessing the credibility and accuracy of any information. He developed these guidelines. Before using information from a website, verify it with source. If you have any doubts about the accuracy of the information and you cannot reach the source, find a second source, such as a book or another contact person. When in doubt, omit the information. In most cases, information taken directly from the web and used in a story must be attributed. Check the extension on the site's internet address to get clues as to the nature of the organizations and the likely slants of the information. And here are the most common extensions used in the United States. And next, don't use information from a personal homepage without contacting the person and without permission of an editor. In almost all cases, don't use information from the homepages of commercial and non-profit organizations without verification. Verify and attribute all information on these pages. And the last one, check the data when the page was updated. Check the data when the page was up. The data generally appears at the bottom of the first page of the site. If no data appears, if the site has not been updated for a while, or if it was created some time ago, don't use the information unless you verify it with the source, because it indicates that the organization is not paying close attention to the site. And here's notice, material on the web is subject to copyright laws. With some exception, there's no problem linking to a website, but taking copyrighted material and placing it on your own site is clearly a copyright violation. And third part is source of information. Additional sources also merit attention. Commercial database services. These services are not intended for the general public, but cater to journalists, lawyers, and others who need to do background research. In Internet search engines, sites like Sites like Google and Yahoo are terrific gateways to databases of all sorts. They will simplify your searches. Other computerized databases. These include the electronic libraries or mergers maintained by the various media and databases created by reporters themselves as they attempt to document stories. And government databases. All levels of government, federal, state, county, and municipal maintain extensive databases of information of use journalists. Today, thousands of government databases are accessible on the web. For federal databases, start with Thomas, the Service of the Library of Congress. And the last one, special interest group databases. Many private groups maintain databases of information of use to journalists. Usually, these are maintained by nonprofit groups with a cause, such as Planned Parenthood. And the fourth part, the online editor. Editing for the online media has been likened to editing for a 24-hour news service. There are no set deadlines. More precisely, there's a deadline every minute. Online editors consistently face deadlines, and they must be skilled in the presentations of news in many formats, the written words, graphics, audios, and videos. That's because the online media increasingly use all these devices to transfer information to consumers. And online media editors are also are multimedia journalists. The online editor must be proficient in using computers, a key tool of the craft, but the medium itself also creates the need for new kinds of journalists. Here's an example. If a news story reports on census trends, it's a simple matter to link to the U.S. Census Bureau site on the web, where the reader can find plenty of additional information. And now the challenge journalists face is to think creatively about how computers can assist in the presentation of news. As they do so, they redefine the medium. What web journalists are doing is inventing a new medium, one rooted in the traditions of the existing media, but one that rejects their shortcomings as unacceptable. Thus, the online media combine the depths of newspapers and magazines with the immediacy of radio and television. And they combine the eye appeal of television with the enduring quality of magazine reproduction. The multimedia journalists who work in the online media must use their existing skills while learning new ones. The next part, the web's importance. Today, it's fair to say that no one can be a serious journalist without a good working knowledge of web. There's simply too much information available for anyone to ignore. It's important for journalists to use the web as a source of information, and it's important for journalists to see what others are publishing on it. Because of the importance of the web in the new media, many journalists are learning how to create web pages. And the real key to understanding the power of the web is understanding hypertext. Within a web document, links to related information are established. The second part is designing for the web, and here are some key tips on how to design web pages. Keep the design consistent among the pages on your site. Put the best material near the top of the page, where it's visible before the reader has to scroll down. Break up the type with block quotes, subheads, and bulleted lists. Limit the amount of scrolling a reader has to do by using internal links to take a reader to selected spots lower down on the same page, or external links to take readers to sidebars. And use view Use view source to copy coding for elements of others' web pages you like, and keep a library of special effects you can block, save, and drop in. Flashing type is distracting and annoys viewers. Don't use color type against a background, it will blend with. Yellow type seems especially hard to read. Stick to the color palette Internet Explorer uses. If you create others, they will distort. And the seventh part is online media and the future. The Internet has become powerful. It's clear to most that the Internet is almost surely the information superhighway that will carry the infomedia of the future, regardless of its eventual form. No serious new medium could exist without a close connection to the Internet. And don't expect the existing media to disappear. Although it's likely that the number of newspapers, these traditional media, will continue to decline. They won't just vanish, nor will broadcast radio and television, nor will magazines. For the foreseeable future, we are likely to see fierce competition among them all. And next is the questions. First one, taking copyrighted material and placing it on your own site is clearly a copyright violation. True or false? Yeah, true. And second one, commercial database services are intended for the general public. Yeah. The last one. Which one is not key tip on how to design web pages? C. Create your own color without using palette Internet Explorer. This one is because we must use the palette Internet Explorer. If we do this by ourselves, it will make the readers annoyed. Yeah, and that's all.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ru. Today, I wanted to introduce the chapter 14, Editing for Broadcast Media. First, is that editing skill for newspaper is the same with editing skill for broadcast media? Most of the technique for editing in newspaper and magazine apply as well to news on radio and television. Both must have good news judgment, a feeling for audience, and ability to handle language. But broadcast news editor should make more concise and also make their words with audio and video. Requirement to make a broadcast news writing. News should be written and edited, so newscaster can read it conversationally so it sounds natural to listener. Editors should use simple words so audience can grasp the meaning immediately. Attractive word and forceful word can make your listener pay full attention to your story. News copy should talk. And remember, audience who miss a point likely had lost it completely, so radio and television usually will insert the point separately into the story. News copy should talk. Besides that, the news should terms with simple active words that produce image for the listener. For example, train and bus are running hours late. Tokyo and Osaka have called out huge snow clearing fogs. A flood have covered the Puchong area from Sepang to Salatiga within 20 inches of water. Third, the lead should function like newspaper headline to attract readers and let them know what come. News should be arranged using transition to help listeners shift gear. For example, in the other news, let's see an accident happen in like Serban or Bahau. Story should be complement, not merely repeat what obvious from any accompanying sound clip or video. Source of copy. The source of broadcast news copy may come from local reporter, news gatherer association like Utrus or Associated Press, and some television and radio station will subscribe to a newspaper news services. This will provide great number and story to them. News will be edited by trained reporter who know how to tailor the news for specific audience. How to prepare the copy. Broadcast copy is done with ease of reading for the newscaster in mind. Usually they will use the teleprompter. The teleprompter screen should average only 4 words a line, so newscaster eye do not travel a long distance. All local copy should be triple spaced in capital and lower letter. Line, if done any correction on the copy, should scratch the word, then should make a new copy to the newscaster after the correction. No hyphen should be used to break word from one line to another line. Third, put each story on a separate sheet so they can easily to rearrange or delete in time. Need to include the pronunciation aids if necessary. Most common problem for newscaster is place name which get different pronunciation in different religion. Broadcast style. First, abbreviation. No abbreviation should be used in radio and television news copy except common use like Mr. and Mrs., Doctor, and name or organization widely known like WHO, FBI, UNICEF, and time designation like AM, PM, and academic degree PhD. Pronunciation indicate a pause where a newscaster can catch a breath. Hyphen is used instead of the period of initiate, like all combined words should have a hyphenation like co-worker, semi, and contraction are more widely used in broadcast copy for conversation tone. Common contraction like isn't, doesn't, they are can be used in indirect or direct quotes. For example, he doesn't like to eat tomato. But avoid to use when you want to stress a word like she does not choose to run instead of she doesn't choose to run. Broadcast style. The quotation mark, do not read the quotation mark in the script like could and blah 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 end of quote. Instead of indicate the speaker words by phrase such as the speaker say what she call. Number. Number, it can be easily misheard in broadcast news. For example, a million sounds like 8 million, 50 to 60 people like 50 to 60 people. So we should use 1 million to replace a million and use between to replace 2. Use round number or approximation. For example, almost a mile rather than 5200 feet, or about half rather than 48.9%. Besides that, number under 10 and over 99 are spelled out and hyphen. The smaller numbers should be spelled out 12 and 20 tones. Figure beginning in a sentence should be spelled out. Used for time of day like 4:30 this afternoon and market story like sports score and statistic. Date, address are included. Title. The identification of title prepare the ears for name. Identification usually precedes the name. For example, Police Chief Ken Potter rather than Chief of Police Ken Potter. Never let President last name alone. For example, President Obama, the President Mr. Obama. Place age close to name. If several names appear, repeat their name rather than position, like Mr. Young rather than a lecturer says. Deadline. While story used as introduction or transition, or the location can be noted elsewhere in the lead, time angle, broadcast copy break up the time into parts. This can make people feel urgency in the news. Remember, use the present and present perfect tense. It will help downplay the time element. For example, this morning, just a few hours, at noon today, and early today. Soundbite. What is soundbite? Often used to promote a short clip of speech or music extract from a long pitch of audio, often used to promote the full-length pitch. In the content of journalism, a soundbite is categorized by a short phrase or sentence that captures the essence of what the speaker was trying to say, and is used to summarize information and summarize information. The audio and video used in news copy for radio. The audio and video used by the radio or television should show date, time block, story structure, writer name and initiate, story source and indication. Cue line insert when soundbite used. Newscaster should identify the speakers after the soundbite play. Soundbite should not be concentrated in one part. Our cues should be noted in the exact word of the people interviewed. Television news. Television news is made by spoken word and moving picture. A good television script should not compete with picture. Script should prepare viewer for that they're about to see or specify what may be difficult to see. Script should avoid repeating what viewer can see or heard. The editing for television news is more than radio. Broadcast use video from web is more and more like YouTube. So this is my question. First, which of the following answer is not the requirement to make a broadcast news? Yes, C. News should be short. Television script should not compete with picture because script should prepare viewer for that they're about to see or specific what may be difficult to see. True or false? Yeah, true. What is soundbite? Yeah, B. A short clip of speech or music extract from a longer speech of audio. That's all from me, thank you.
Have you sent that to me, or have you want to save this onto my hard drive? Or?
No. Did I need to send to your email?
Well, I need a copy of it, one way or the other.
So now I can copy to your computer.
That's fine. You can throw it in the desktop if you want to, and I'll get it from you.
So I put it in your desktop?
That's fine.
Again, just a couple of comments on that. I think just one comment, I think I probably talked about it last week because I was kind of in the mode of talking it to all the tutorials. We were supposed to have this, I think, last week. One of the main things I want to emphasize is news writing is somewhat different between broadcast and print. And so part of what I teach you in print is not true for broadcast. For example, particularly the attribution. As I emphasize type 2, type 3 attribution, where the attribution at the end of the sentence or in the middle, if we're talking about direct quotes especially. But when we're talking about broadcast, you can't do that. You need your attribution at the beginning. And so you're treating it more like in print, I tell you to have your attribution at the beginning when it's an indirect quote, because I don't want the reader to get confused as to who's saying it. When you start reading something, you hold and it's an indirect quote, and you get and they don't see quote marks in a print, then they think that maybe you're saying it, not a source. And so type 1 is particularly important in print if you have an indirect quote. But in broadcast, as was mentioned, you don't say quote, end quote. You don't tell your reader when you're quoting. And so because you don't tell them when you're quoting, you need to put your attribution at the beginning. So in essence, even if it is a direct quote, your listener is probably not going to know that. They're not going to, depending on how exactly you say it, odds are it's not going to, that a good share of your listeners will not know that you're making a direct quote, unless it's on video. And obviously, it's on video that it takes care of itself. You see it immediately that it's a direct quote because you see somebody saying it. So direct quotes in broadcast is more of, do you actually see somebody saying it, or if it's radio, hear them, a different voice coming up, and so you're and then plus the commentator or the anchor person would lead you into that quote, whether it's audio or video. But anyway, the bottom line is, in print, you use a lot of type 2 and type 3 attribution. In broadcast, you don't. In broadcast, you're going to use mostly type 1 attribution. So that's a major aspect of it. I have, next week, I won't be lecturing, and I mentioned I have some videos already online for you to watch instead of my lecture. One of them is a interview I had with one of America's top TV reporters. He actually won a Pulitzer as a print reporter. Jim Polk is his name, and the interview is from quite a while ago, but what he has to say I think is really important, and he has a good TV voice. I don't actually have him on video, I have him in audio, and then I put him with PowerPoint. Anyway, that's one of the things. One reason why I want you to listen to that interview is he compares his 15 years in a newspaper with his 20 plus years on TV and how it's different. And so part of what I'm explaining, probably not so much exactly what I'm saying, but he makes some very important notes as to how things are the same, how things are different. And so that's the first thing I want you to listen to. I do have some other videos I put online already for you to listen to, but all of them put together are less than 2 hours. So you'll have less than a full lecture next week. But those, because I want to give you incentive to watch them, your quiz next week is postponed until Friday and Saturday. So it will not be on Monday. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I have my right Mondays right. We're crossing over 2 weeks, so I'm making sure I'm not saying something wrong. So, yeah, you had a quiz yesterday, but next week you had one scheduled for Monday, but it's now going to be postponed till the end of the week because primarily so that you have incentive to listen to the lecture in a few days to digest it, to the video lectures, and have incentive to listen to them, because I think they're important. Okay, we have another one here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zhang Yao, and today I will talk about the editing in other fields. We should know first that many students who take journalism class are prefer for creating in field and other than newspaper, than magazine, radio, TV, or the internet. Rather than the writing or editing news, many of them will make a live in written press, release, or advertising copy, and some will edit books. We'd like to take a brief book here at the role editing play in this grade to choose for journalism major. One is public relation, advertising, and book publishing. Public relation and advertising, unlike newspaper, magazine, newsletter, the web, the radio, the television, and books are media, but rather just close connected to the media. Advertising is the major way American media are vanished instead of book, movie, and music. And PR is one of the major resources of news in US. With about half of the news story origination from the press release. Next, I will talk about the difference between the public relation and advertising. Both advertising and PR try to influence our attitudes and about the business group, people, and issue. But there are some distinction between the PR and advertising. The one is advertising has been described as over persuasion. Public relations are covert persuasion. Advertising sell the product. Public relations foster good for organizing people or case. Advertising were mainly through the mass media. although may be through smaller alternative media like face. Public relations were through the news relation, public conference, public event, and sponsorship, and some advertisement. Mass media charge for advertising space or time, but they often give free public. Advertising is regulated by the government, and PR isn't. The main difference is advertising messages are controlled by these who put them out, but the public relation messages they are the message of the journalist. Someone paid to have advertising message placed in the media to show them something. Public relation is a message someone want to get out to the public relation, and it become news if journalists agree with this news words. The next is editing in public relation. What should you know when you editing in public relation? Publish the audience for which news are interested in working journalism, newspaper, city editor, and broadcasting station, news director. A survey in 2011 found that those journalism were relies more and more all the time on the social media to find out about the news story. But their number one source was still public relation firm. It's understood that the newspaper or the broadcasting station will not use the relation. If a story used at all, it likely will become a genius of the media outlet our story. The best relation quickly and succinctly give the media information they need. The number two is news relations should be accurate and truthful. Editors who feel misled by the influence of the over relations, some learn to ignore the next one from the same organization, like journalism. Journalists, public relations especially should have strong precision, have a professional athlete. The quality of the published direct affect the improvement or the deterioration of the company image. Promotion line. A writer and editor also produce the compare report, menus and others material that will be used both inside the company and by the actual audience. Audience often judge the instruction by the quality of the writer material they produce. Don't make the mistake which command among the machine of the writing your release like an AD. If editor run it at all, the first things they will do is to take out the noble object self-serving language. They will also recount the story on what they think is news. The audience will find useful or interesting, which they will be the messaging you will try to get across. So, in writing a press release, ask yourself the same question. The editor will, where is the news here? By focusing your press release on that argument and following regular journalism style, you will increase your chance being here. The last one is to be a master social network leader. Increasingly, public relation professional like advertiser and marketers are going to allow the middleman in case of journalism and getting out their information through the instructional web and social media. They are using Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to get their message out under their own control, not through the instruments such as journalism action to the gatekeeper and letting them. The next is editing in advertising. Like the news headline, a writer who tried to lose the reader into the story. The advertising headline writer attacked the reader to words of the praising customer. Once the writer has the reader's attention, it's time to follow up with the mentally to show the reader. After the advertising caption of the reader's interest catch the reader interesting, it builds a desire for the product. In case of the result, occasion and try to conversion and the reader to add. That's the first step to processing using the hidden advertising. One is the attack the attention. The second one is the build the interest. The next is create the deceives for the reader. The next one is give convert their some message. If you like to go into the book publishing as a career, English is one good major, but perhaps even the better is journalism, partly because most books published are non-fiction. Also, the journalism school is one of the best places to learn the grammar, usually attending to the style, and the copy editing is simple. After you graduate, there are two main ways to you to do the book publishing work. One is work for the university place or special place. The second one is to a place to attend a publish instruction. There's some quiz for you. Which one is not including in the fourth step processing and use the Hilton AD? Do you know that? Do you know the answer? Maybe the answer is the last one. Go to the next. Make a judgment to this statement. Advertising is self-product. Public relations forget good view for the organizing, people for the or place. It's true or false? True. Yeah, you're right. Sure. The next one is, who is the main audience for which news release? The answer is C. Thank you for listening.
Okay, again, I want to make a couple of comments on this as well. As you know, I'm sure by now, I kind of went back and forth between journalism and marketing, but actually I worked in journalism for 20 years before I went into marketing, almost 20 years, almost exactly 20 years actually, before I went into marketing full-time. But I did some marketing earlier because as a publisher you had to. I had to wear lots of hats as a newspaper publisher when I bought my first newspaper at age 25. And I also helped out with advertising some in my first job because of the brand new newspaper and they needed help. They were losing money themselves already. So I had to help wherever I could, more than just as an editor. I'm going to have you watch a video on your own instead of me talking about marketing. Those of you who went to the conference on Saturday probably don't need to watch the video if you were taking notes on Saturday. But one of the problems with this textbook, how it talking about PR and market and advertising, is again they don't know how things have changed apparently because it's totally different now. Not a probably this one doesn't have as good a chart as one this morning, but basically about 20 years ago, no, about 30 years ago, an idea was put forth in the area of marketing that there should be what they called IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication. And integrated marketing communication meant that somebody should oversee all marketing efforts. Marketing is not synonymous to advertising. Advertising is one aspect of marketing, and public relations is another aspect of marketing, and sales is another aspect of marketing, and your location. In fact, the 4 Ps of marketing don't sound like marketing at all to many of you. They include the product itself is an important part of marketing, including its packaging. Packaging is a very important part of marketing. Placement, where do you buy it? That's an important part of marketing. Do you sell it at an expensive store? Do you sell it at a dollar store? Do you sell it at a grocery store? Do you sell it at a gas station? Where do you sell your product or service? Nowadays, do you sell it online? So product, place, price is important. That's part of the marketing mix. What price do you set? Do you try to make a lot of profit on a few items? Or are you trying to make a little profit off lots of items? So all of these are part of marketing. They're not advertising, they're part of marketing. And PR is part of marketing. The 4th P of the 4 Ps is promotion. And so promotion really takes the place of advertising, PR, and some other things. Direct sales is actually promotion. So when we talk about the 4 Ps of marketing, 3 of them are things you all probably don't even think of as marketing. And in fact, like I say, a lot of people think of marketing as synonymous to advertising, and it's not. It's one, marketing is much bigger than advertising. So IMC suggests that one organization, one person should oversee all aspects of marketing. However, many organizations separated advertising from PR. They did not have somebody overlooking both of them. They definitely did not have them involved in some of these other things like price setting, placement setting, and pricing. They saw that as something totally different. In this day and age, however, and why I say this textbook is out of date considerably, is that IMC is not only a good idea nowadays, it's almost inevitable that you are practicing IMC in this day and age. And the reason is because advertising is now mimicking PR. It used to be, in fact, a chart that somebody made up from the textbook in this morning's tutorial made a point of what is the difference between advertising and PR. Advertising is more overt. They're trying to push something on you, as this question, the question was suggested here, that advertising is trying to force you to buy. PR is trying to help you feel good about the company. It's kind of more like brand management. But that's no longer true on the internet. Some of the most powerful advertising now, or some of the most powerful marketing, let me not get the phrases mixed up, some of the most powerful marketing now is not paid for. We call it inbound marketing, and I'm going to end tonight's tutorial early, but I'm going to ask you to watch a video on your own time. It's only a 20-minute video, and that will be included in the next quiz. So I will show you where to find that. It is already, yeah, I think I went ahead and put it on Moodle already. I got interrupted and the system went down. Moodle went down for a while, so I'm trying to remember if I actually got it done or whether I had so many roadblocks that I did not get it done. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure I did finally get it put onto Moodle. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you to watch the 20-minute video. Again, those of you who went to the conference on Saturday, particularly if you went while I was talking, you will have already learned what is on this 20-minute video that I took 2 hours to explain in the conference. So you will have already gotten a good dose of that and probably don't need to watch the video. But what I started to say then is the statistics in this video and that I went over on Saturday show that inbound marketing or content marketing has overtaken and surpassed, in America anyway, surpassed advertising as the best source of leads. Inbound marketing or contact marketing are ways of getting people to come to your website, such as blogs, such as videos, such as games, such as webinars, such as search engine optimization, which also relates to everything else I just said. Because search engine optimization, search results are more powerful the more content you have on your website. And so they start interacting. Search engine optimization and other promotional efforts in content marketing overlap because if you have lots of blogs, you get more people coming to your website, you show up in the search engines more. Anyway, this sort of marketing that leads people to your website, and then on your website you convert them into customers or clients, is now more powerful than overt advertising is. It gets more leads, more sales than overt advertising. So what do you classify? Do you classify inbound marketing or content marketing as PR, or do you count it as advertising? With the old chart, it doesn't fit into either one very well. It's not advertising because you don't pay for it. And it's not PR because it's more allied with the idea of selling than it is with just promoting good brand or whatever, like the books was suggesting with PR. So it's more directly marketing, but it isn't advertising. However, there is new type of advertising that is sprung off of content. So, for example, if you're a blogger, if your website includes blogging, which is one type of inbound marketing or content marketing, you should promote your blog on your social media site or all your social media. So you blog, that's free. You put it on social media, that's free. However, as you get their attention, you start drawing people to your website. In fact, you actually set up your blog so they don't actually read your blog on social media. They click on a promo and they come to your website to read your blog. Once they're on your blog, you have a chance to convert them into customers, clients, or at least friends. And so you're using your blog to get them to your website, or your video, or your game, or your whatever other type of inbound marketing technique you use. You're using it to get people to come to your website, and there have a chance to create a relationship with them, and in a covert way, in a very subtle way, have a chance to market to them. And as the video will explain that you will watch, it has become much more effective than overt advertising is in America now. However, once both the advertisers and the media, social media, realized how effective this content marketing was, the social media started offering to let people buy better coverage of their social postings. So now, if you put a post on social media, on Facebook, on behalf of your company, Facebook will ask you, would you like us to expand its to empower it, and I can't remember what word they say in their message. Anyway, basically what they're asking is, do you want us to put this in other people's timelines that are not your friends? That's really what they're asking. They have a more subtle way of saying that, but that's what they mean. And so you put a free posting on your Facebook site. They ask you if you want them to promote it and put it on other people's Facebook sites. And if you say yes, then they charge you for it. They tell you how much it'll cost, or they give you some options. One is pay-per-click, some other things. And so the very item that you put on your Facebook site free now becomes your advertisement on other people's timeline. So in this way, this is called native advertising, and the prediction is that native advertising will make up about 75% of all display advertising within the next 3 years. So this is, again, how do you divide PR and advertising when the people who post the content on social media which is free would be people probably with a PR background, and but then the social media asks if you want to pay for it to put it on other timeline sites. Once you pay for it, it becomes advertising. And so now, as I said, IMC is no longer an option. Anybody who thinks that IMC is an option is an idiot at this point, because the best advertising techniques and methods in this day and age blend the two together. Your advertising and your PR skills are blended together in social media. Consequently, some organizations, by the way, instead of actually blending IMC in a total way, or in blending PR and advertising totally, they did just the opposite. They created a third department. So they still have an advertising department, they still have a PR department, and now they have a third department for social media. And so the social media department has probably mostly people with PR skills to run it, because that's the nature of social media, but they put them in a new department because they have different responsibilities than PR and different responsibilities than advertising. So there may be now 3 departments instead of 2, and so they still haven't totally blended and really become an IMC, an integrated marketing communication department. They are now 3 departments. They might have 1 head now of those 3 departments. So let me bring up, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to show you what I have in mind for you to watch and where to find it. Make sure it's on Moodle already. You have a presentation too? Okay, well, just a second. Let me finish this while I have this in my thought. Okay, just drawing to my attention that we do have another presentation, but let me just finish this thought anyway. On your okay, so on Moodle now, you will see under week 14, let's see if we okay, so I do have it have it embedded into our Moodle site now. This is a video that I made a couple of years ago now, I think. Well, this covers the marketing side. I do want you to watch this on your own, but it's only about 20 minutes. Our tutorial is probably going to last a little longer than most of the tutorials because we're supposed to actually only have one tutorial today or one presentation today, and we've got apparently 4 of them, maybe 5. Who knows? So be aware that that is still part of your responsibility. It will be on the final quiz and could be on the final exam. The other thing I was going to point out was just to point out from the syllabus that I postponed the, again, there will not be any lecture on Monday. I postponed the quiz until next, well, I thought I rewrote this. Where is it? Why is it not rewritten? Maybe I did not upload it to Moodle, and this may be from Moodle. I do not know. Okay, we'll have to rewrite this apparently. So I, again, probably because of no, I put it the wrong place. Oh no, I guess it's the right place. Okay, anyway, it's up here. So the quiz has been postponed until after I get back, so it'll be on the 10th and 11th. You'll have it available. Again, it'll be fairly short, but instead of being next Monday, it will be on the following Friday and Saturday on the 10th or 11th. You'll have access to it all day, both days, so you can do it at your convenience. So be aware of that. I should change the syllabus and send out a notice on that, to that effect. Okay, let's, do we have just one more presentation? How many more presentations do we have? Are we that far behind? Okay. Okay, our last presentation, I think. Okay.
1 point. Yeah. On disk. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about editing for today's changing media. This chapter is divided into 7 parts to illustrate today's changing media environment and changing role of editors. First, we talk about the editor's changing role. Editors in that environment served as gatekeepers. They controlled the gate for allowing information to flow to the public, and consumers got only what editors gave them. Editors had total control over what was published. They determined whether these stories were newsworthy, and they decided which one should be put on the front page, where most people would read it. Today, the editor's role is changing with the development of Internet. They allow users to choose what news they want to consume and what type of information they prefer, traditional or digital databases. In this environment, users begin to take the control to receive what they want to read and ignore what they are not interested in. Thus, a software, not an editor, served as the gatekeeper. The consumer, not the editor, takes the control of the flow of information.
One editor said that we have historically performed a great service to society by setting the public agenda. When people consume only news that they want or like to read, they miss out on reading about important public issues they need to know about. It shows that how editors performed an important public role in the society, and editors must continue to find ways to serve that function in an era when the audience is no longer a captive one. Practice good journalism, grounded in the fundamentals of truth and accuracy, is the best and the only way to earn public's trust. Once they get public's trust, consumers will trust editors to give them what they need to know to be productive citizens. And then the editors could earn gatekeepers' roles. Part 2 is about the democratization of the media. The one-to-many model big media implied exclusively in the past still exists, but a new form of media is also developing now, which is known as citizen journalism. Everyone can be a journalist to publish a news article or broadcast a news story. What readers and viewers want is a chance to discuss the news with those who report it. Recently, blogs on the sites of traditional media provide platforms for readers to criticize a newspaper column for gory coverage of a crime. Editors now are embracing citizen-produced news as a welcome extension of what they do. Citizen journalism allows editors to extend their coverage in ways never before possible. For the changing media environment, these are the current situations of the media environment. Newspapers continue to reach a smaller segment of the general population each year. Most newspapers are still profitable and so on. The traditional media are challenged by many forces largely, but it is not doubt that existing media are certainly not dying. Newspapers typically operate on profit margins around 5 to 10% of gross income. Most magazines attract advertisers in jobs because of the appealing demographics of their audiences. Most local broadcast stations are thriving. All new radio stations, found mostly in large metropolitan areas, are doing well financially. So the traditional media are far from dead, even if they are not quite as profitable as they once were. They are still providing informational experiences for us, even in the face of new challenges. Traditional media are finding ways to survive and compete with digital media. The keyword in the media industry this year is convergence, and the traditional media are exploring many forms of it. According to the textbook, convergence is the practice of sharing and cross-promoting content from a variety of media through newsrooms, collaborations, and outside partnerships. The U.S. Telecommunications Act of 1996 made convergence possible because it relaxed ownership regulations on television and the radio and made it possible for stations to collaborate with print counterparts. Perhaps the best-known early convergence experiment is one that involves the Tampa WFLA and Tampa Bay Online. Cultural differences among the media can cause problems when media convergence, but media convergence is still necessary and it is happening nationwide. Newspapers and magazines can provide more depth and understanding, and the Internet can offer even deeper interactivity. The merging of these disparate media makes sense for a changing world and gives consumers the news and information in whatever form they prefer. In convergence newsrooms, journalists realize that they must have enough knowledge of the strengths of various media to know how best to tell a story. They should view themselves as news specialists comfortable with working in a variety of settings. Traditionally, editors defined news as information having one or more of these qualities. But today, consumers are defining news for themselves. If a website has appealing content, some viewers will find their news there, no matter how reliable or unreliable that site might be. But it is important to remember that most thoughtful citizens still want someone to help them sort through the news. They want editors who are reliable and who work at branded publications and television outlets they trust. The growing popularity of blogs illustrates the rapidly changing patterns of news consumption in the US. Some blogs focus on the media and are frequently stops for journalists. Nationwide, newspapers and television stations are creating blogs often moderated by their own reporters and editors. They allow readers, viewers, and editors to connect, exchange information and personal thoughts in ways that were never possible in traditional media. The changing nature of news makes the role of the editor more important. Because of everyone can become a journalist on the web, so there may be rumors, untrue, and extreme information. However, good editors are trained to separate the fact from fiction for consumers and help the public define what's credible and what's not. They will also have more competition than in the past, because consumers like to look to other sources of information to help guide them in their decision-making. The public may play a greater role than ever before in defining news, but editors are far from obsolete. Indeed, they are needed more today than ever before. Those who write well are in demand, and those who edit well are in even greater demand. That's because the grammar of the byline seems irresistible for many. Those who eagerly pursue editing careers, however, are fewer in number. As a result, the media industry scrambles to find qualified editors. Editors for newspapers, broadcast newsrooms, websites, advertise companies are important and necessary. Editing jobs are so plentiful, in fact, that companies are often willing to pay editors a higher salary than writers. Although some people want to reduce the number of editors at newspapers recently, but finally they find that without them, the quality of newspapers would be sliding. Good editors must master variety of skills and a large range of the news. Make them must be up to date, keep their work varied and interesting. Rather than being specialists on a narrow bit, they are journalists. Editing was described as an art, no matter where or by whom it is practiced. That remains true today. Although media may change, the role of the editor remains clear. Provide timely and accurate information in the best form possible. Then come to the questions. First one is true or false. The role of editor could be totally replaced by software and consumers. The answer is false. And the second one, because we still need well-trained editors to help us sort the news and evaluate what is reliable, which the computers cannot do for us. The second one is the best path for editors to earn gatekeepers and agenda setters roles is The answer is practice good journalism grounded in the fundamentals of truth and accuracy to earn public's trust. The third one, according to the textbooks, newspapers is dying because of the low profits. It is false because according to the textbook, the newspapers now still have healthy profits, and the traditional media would not die. The fourth one job of the gatekeeper is to determine what? 什么鬼啊 The answer is B. That's all.
Let me explain. Yeah, I disagree with the book, and I think their information is somewhat dated. As I mentioned, my background in media management is not just as a journalist. I don't think maybe it's just outdated information. I don't know. I used to work for one of the biggest chains in America, and it just lost $30 million in 1 year. I don't think that sounds profitable. I know a lot of the chains have closed down some of their weekly newspapers as being just not even plausible to keep going. I know some newspapers have closed altogether. Some of the biggest newspapers in the country have closed. Ones who haven't closed have lost lots and lots of advertising. So, no, I think that's, I don't know what year they got their data, but the revenues, the advertising revenues, which is the main source of income for newspapers, has gone down every year for more than 10 years, and it's now 1/3 of what it used to be. And so those that can still make a profit off of 1/3 of what they used to make have figured out something that most newspapers, I don't think, have figured out. Let me explain about TV, though. I also said earlier that local TV stations are about 10 years behind the newspapers. Let me explain why. Already, a survey of American TV viewers has found that Netflix, the online providers are providing the most popular video entertainment now. That when the survey asked basically, where is your favorite TV show? Where's your favorite video programming? And the answer to that question, it went beyond just America, but I'm not sure. I think it actually was global, because I think actually in other parts of the world it was actually stronger than in America. But the answer now is online, and primarily Netflix is now providing the most popular of the TV shows. People are still going to TV as their starting point. But since most TV sets are now digital, they can switch immediately over to Netflix or to Hulu or one of the other services. I mentioned that other people are coming into the market now. Disney and Turner and others are coming into the market to provide entertainment to compete with Netflix. Well, in essence, all of them together will be competing with TV. And so there's altogether this year, I think the plan is there's something like $20 billion is going to be spent on online TV-like programming. $8 billion just by Netflix. Hulu and Disney and a number of other people are going to spend money too, in the billions of dollars. Meanwhile, where's that going to come from? Who they're really competing with? They're competing with local stations, but they're also competing with cable stations. And more people are dropping cable. And so cable has dropped by 10 to 20% in the last couple of years. The main thing keeping local TV stations profitable in America, I don't know about other countries, but in America, they are right to say that right now local TV stations are profitable in America, but they're mainly profitable because the cable stations are required to pay them retransmission fees for their local programming. And it kind of comes as part of a percentage of their revenues, of the cable revenues. And because Netflix and Hulu and Disney and Turner and all these other people are going to be competing with cable, you can expect that more and more people are going to be cutting their cable. In fact, in a survey, one survey I used in a chapter I wrote for one of the books I co-authored recently, they saw they asked people, were they planning to cut off their cable? And that number was increasing and was quite a large number. It was actually basically 10% per year were planning to cut their cable. Well, if it's 10% per year, it doesn't take many years before cable's in trouble. And as cable's revenues go down, then the retransmission fees that they're paying the local TV stations also go down. And so meanwhile, the advertising for local TV stations has not moved online. You would think that since they're video, that they could move their advertising online faster and easier than newspapers. But still, far less than 10% of a local TV station's revenue in America is coming from their online advertising, less than 10%. So the perfect storm that I see coming is, first off, is that, and what's so hard for people to predict is how quickly things will drop as all these online entertainment providers really kick into gear like they're doing this year. This very year, they're spending like $20 billion for better entertainment online. So how do you predict the results of that? As I said already, they're already providing people's favorite programming, and so where does it go from there? If they're providing their favorite programming, then how soon before people say, I like all their programming, or I like most of their programming better, I'm cutting the cable. I'm not going to pay $100 a month for cable anymore, or whatever it is they're paying in America for their cable. So this is where we start talking about tipping points. In 2005 was the most profitable year in the newspaper industry, in this newspaper history in America. In 2005. By 2006, they were firing people. They were laying people off because they were losing money. And it went down from there. As I said, since 2005, they've lost 2/3 of their income. Newspapers have in America. So when does that tipping point hit TV? So even though they're saying they're profitable today, does not mean they're going to be profitable next year. In fact, I'm not sure they'll be profitable this year. I'm not sure. I think there's a little bit of more, because the retransmission fees are not calculated and contracted every year. It may take a couple of years before the retransmission fees drop drastically in America. But I think that will be the year when you can really see the tipping point in American local TV. So part of what they said is not true any longer, and part of what they said is changing rapidly. So the textbook is partly false and partly going to be false, I think, soon. Let me put it that way. So anyway, so with these four presentations, we've taken most of the 2 hours, but I'm done. I'm going to turn off the video. And this is our last tutorial. Next week, you will not have tutorial, and next week's the last week of the semester. So this is our and next week you won't have me as lecturer either, so this is your last class with me. No lecture on Monday, and no tutorial next week. So let me just maybe clarify if there's any question on the final exam. The first part, the objective part, as I mentioned in the lecture the other day, I had, in just creating that, it's going to be on Moodle. However, you will also be given a printout of the questionnaire, or the questions. There's only be 20 questions. And anyway, you have 20 minutes to answer 20 questions, true and false, and and multiple choice. Everybody will take 20 minutes. Nobody will get to start part 2 until everybody's finished with part 1. And so everybody, the first 20 minutes, it'll start right on the hour. You will have access to Moodle and be able to start your quiz. And after 20 minutes, it'll shut down. Whether or not you've finished, it will shut down on you. If you finish, you should go ahead and close out properly the way you normally would. I don't know how many. I've never really tested it. It says that if you don't close it down, and Moodle closes it down, that it'll save it right where you're at. But I don't know if there's anything that can screw up if it has to close down for you. So I will advise you to close down yourself so that it doesn't screw up your questionnaire, the part A of your quiz. Part B then will be just doing your one-page tabloid, 4 stories, associated pictures. I'll have pre-written the captions, so you don't have to write, at least one caption for each set of pictures. So if you have more than one picture for a story, you'll have to maybe make a slight change in the caption for the second version of it or whatever. So basically you have 20 minutes for part A, and then that would be whatever's left of 2 hours for the other part. On the second page, again, I just want you to jump one story. So I want you to literally cut at the end of a sentence on your other stories. On page 1, don't think about jumping them. You don't need to. There's no point wasting your time doing it. So cut your other 3 stories on page 1 and jump one story to show me that you know how to jump and how to do it properly. So basically you have one page to do. Any questions on that or anything else? If not, then class is over. If you're working on something, you're welcome to stay for a while, but class is over. If you're working on a magazine, I have the sense that nobody's really gotten very far in the magazine, so I doubt you have anything to show me for the magazine assignment. Again, as I mentioned on yesterday, the magazine degraded a lot on creativity. Obviously, you need to have certain knowledge of techniques that I tried to demonstrate yesterday to show me that you have superior skills with Quark that are needed for a magazine. The more you demonstrate that, the better grade you will probably get. Because I expect, the idea of magazine is that it's going to be cooler. It's going to be better. It's going to have, and they require additional techniques that I demonstrated yesterday. Again, you don't necessarily have to use all those techniques. Also, I did not use a quote box, for example. You could use a quote box, a shadow box with a quote in it. There's other things you could do that I did not do in my demonstration yesterday. So anyway, just do your best. Again, the critique sheet is pretty much thrown out on this, other than things like, if you misspell in your headline, you'll get clobbered for that. You need to be meticulous about how you do those sorts of things. So basically the skills you learn for the newspaper projects are kind of your foundation, but a lot of the rules are different. So you can break a lot of the rules that I told you for the newspapers. You don't have to necessarily fill up all the space. You can put blurbs above the headlines, which you don't normally do in the newspaper. You can do lots of different things that you would not do. You make a lot bigger pictures. You can take a whole page for a picture like I did. I don't know. There's lots of things you can do differently. You can use 12-point if you want to instead of 10-point. I don't know. Just everything I showed you and then some. Whatever your imagination, wherever it can lead you, you can do it with magazines. And my way of grading will be, does it look cool? Does it look good? Does it look professional? And if it does, you'll get a good grade. So I don't have a lot. I don't have a specific critique sheet for the magazine. Again, try to use your best skills. Show me that you know how to do things and that maybe other people don't know how to do, and that will give you kind of some extra points or whatever will help you excel in your grade on the magazine. So Okay, anything else? If not, then I'm done talking. You don't have a lot of extra time because we had all these presentations today, but that must mean that you must have more time on other days. Okay, thank you.